Hello and welcome to a new video. It's part 2 of our October challenge, and this time don't look at the date. No, don't look at the date. Stop it. No, don't. Down. Right, this time no, stop it. This time we'll be seeing what we got up to in the latter half of the month, starting off with, of course. Okay, we've got Ragh and Parsley in the style of Trumpton. Oh no, they're gonna look so cute. Little wooden animated goblins. I got a Chuck Pal in there as well. I have to. No, maybe Pal's playing with them as little toys. Oh, exciting. Ragh and Parsley, aka the Hobgays, adopted fathers to little baby Pal, are, I think, pretty deserving of a chill little picnic in the countryside. For those of you who weren't alive in the latter half of the 20th century, and specifically living in England, Trumpton was the second in a trilogy of adorably simple stop-motion animations, about which very few people remember anything, except the names of the firemen. If you know, you know. Now, I don't quite remember the episode where a couple of hobgoblins arrive in town. I imagine there was quite the commotion, but once it became apparent that they were here to buy sandwiches and a little cake for their picnic, and they did so politely and without a fuss, I'm sure the folk of Trumpton welcomed them with open, if slightly wooden, arms. Also, yes, it took me almost the whole process to remember to give Parsley a beret. Cut me some slack in. I don't know how many different ways you can say, and now we have, but... And now we have Raine as, punk style. Ooh, yeah, like with the thunder and, oh yeah, that can work. Fun, punky, thinking like spider punk from the new spider thing. I lose track of what they're called, the spider into the spider punk. Raine has historically been given some challenging styles. This was meant to be Van Gogh, which went about as well as my pronunciation of it. So there's something quite refreshing about her basically being given free rein, just to get splashed about with punky abandon. The issue here, of course, is that I'm very bad at splashing things about with punky abandon. I'm a structure sort of guy. I like having a plan. So getting something that felt vaguely punk in ethos was quite tricky for me. Yes, there are some reliable stylistic certainties like torn paper, a collage of storm-based newspaper clippings in the background, sprayed and spelled ink, ransom note-esque lettering, but I think the drawing itself is the weak link here. That's what you get from a mathematician in punk's clothing, I guess. I say punk's clothing, I'm wearing a cardigan right now. Okay, and we have Fatal Flaw in the style of Don Bluth. Yeah, I want to see a Don Bluth action spy thing. Are they going to be anthropomorphic mice? Possibly. Who knows? Not me. I haven't planned it yet. So, as will become apparent in a couple of days, I make advanced thumbnail sketches for these prompts to try and ensure that I'm confident enough that I can make the finished piece before I bother starting. I only mention this because the quick thumbnail sketches I made for these guys are, I think, the best thing I drew this entire month. Don't know why, they're just sketches, but I really love them here. Beyond trying to replicate that happenstantial magic, this was just a fun exercise in trying to nail down both the feel of a Don Bluth film and the sort of simple, characterful shapes you can find in those animations onto the pre-existing forms of the Fatal Flaw crew. Legend has it that this film nearly went into full production before someone realised that they couldn't really market a story about assassins to children. They replaced it with some half-baked nonsense about mice, apparently. No one watched it, I think. Righto, we have Jethro in the style of Carter Goodrich. Ooh, yeah, no, yes, that could actually work. Jethro is my Scarecrow character. That kind of fits in with that sort of heavy, sort of shapely, expressive, exaggerated forms, and oh yeah, yes, looking forward to this one, yes. It's a better job than they had than the first year where they turned into a Resident Evil monster, so slightly more whimsical, as they deserve. So I squarely have Crossroad Art to blame for this one, suggesting Carter Goodrich for this project. On the plus side, the combo of whimsy that is their style and Jethro's unique brand of aloofness worked quite well, and I almost immediately settled on this whole aloft lawn chair idea. It was meant to be whimsically impossible, but given that Jethro's just a bundle of sticks and a turnip, he might actually be light enough to pull it off, which is annoying. The downside is that of all the artist styles I've tried to imitate in these challenges, Carter Goodrich's is quite definitely one of the most grounded in physical media. Sure, plenty of artists use watercolours and ink, and I've pratted around with those in Rebel and such, but just looking closely at any of Goodrich's work and you'll see the mix of paints and coloured pencils that give it a sort of texture unlike anything else I've seen. And I had tried to copy that, but let me tell you, I'm not surprised he developed RSI. Still, I'm actually very pleased with how shapely and colourful this all came out, and I hope I did the artist and subject an element of justice. Enjoy your champagne, Jethro. The twigs for flavour. And now we have Portia as a postage stamp. Wow, Portia's gone up in the world. I'm gonna turn this into a fake stamp and then send things to Oobs with this on the front of it. I think the postal service might be annoyed with me for doing that, but it's a thing. They can't stop me. They probably can. Also, Portia, that implies movement, right? Okay, so it might look like I forgot to record the time-lapse for the initial sketch here, and that's sort of true, but not accidental. As mentioned before, I make thumbnail sketches of these before I start work on them proper, but for the sake of the time-lapse, I start again from scratch, looking at my thumbnail off-screen as a reference. Bit like how Bob Ross used to do it, only he made an entire finished painting as reference because he was delightfully nuts. However, despite giving this project plenty of head start, I made this picture about a week before it was due. And since I had some very time-consuming styles to go, more on that later, I knew it needed to go quickly, hence no time to waste, copy-paste that thumbnail. I'm sure you guys understand. If not, well, tough. It's my life. I'll waste it on my own terms. As for Portia, I'm pretty pleased with the likeness and the facial contours, even if the hair was always going to be a scrungly bundle of lines and dots. It may also seem rude to price them so cheaply as a stamp, but I was assured by Oobs, their creator, that they were nothing if not inexpensive in taste. I wouldn't take that literally though, it probably tastes like any other stamp. I probably shouldn't have done this on a day that I had bad hay fever, but hey, we forge on with Fritz and Priad. Oh no, are they dating each other? I don't know at this point. Why not? I mean, it's at the very least a more serious style than Priad's had hitherto, but oh, there's gonna be cherry blossoms and blushing and lens flares. Ah, it's gonna be so romantic. Now, I don't know how most dating sims go, nor do I know the state of affairs that led to this particular moment in this particular game. But one thing is for certain, is that somebody, at some point, after this scene, is getting stabbed. That's not on me, that's out of my control. It was ordained the moment the wheels span, but oh gorge, there's gonna be a stabbing. I'm pretty pleased with how Fritz turned out here. Priad was a little trickier, being an older gentleman. Rather annoyingly though, since making this we have started a new RPG with a young Priad, and what I wouldn't have given to have drawn his younger self, resplendent in ponytail, velvet cloak, fingerless gloves and twiddly beard. But alas, I've never been good with time, have I? No, stop it, I said don't! And we have Catboy Male Wife as Cats 2019. I mean... I think maybe we should do another spin. And we have Catboy Male Wife as a vintage pinup. Ha! This is gonna reach some areas of the internet, I can guarantee you that. Oh dear, well, those areas of the internet can be lucrative for a commission artist, so maybe this could help. Oh god, what am I getting myself into? I'm falling down a deep dark well, everyone. I may not return. He always gets the good ones, doesn't he? But luckily, prior to working on this, I was made privy to a whole extended MMO wardrobe of this character, and thus had the pleasure of picking out something suitably risqué. The stockings were, I assure you, not my idea, although possibly a graphical glitch. Still, there are moments in this job where I engage in a certain element of apprehension in sharing my art in a public forum, particularly knowing that a large chunk of my extended family is watching. There's only so many cries of, "It was random, I promise," that can be made before they start pointing at my Malender pictures. The outfits are from a kids show, that's not my fault. Still, pretty pleased with how this came out. I completely forgot to add a Moogle lifting up the back of the coat, as was the original vision, but we can't have everything. Coupeau sera sera. Okay, and we have the Solasta group. Oh, in the style of Jamie Hewlett. Oh, there's 4 of them, that's like gorillas, right? Ah, that actually, yeah, no, I'm on board for this. I'm on board for this. And multiple green characters. That works out well. Which one's Murdoch? Okay, thinking about that made me think about Quill in his underwear, and that's not a train of thought I'm willing to walk down. So our little Salasta gang, consisting of Mel the halfling, Misha the dragonborn, Quill the elf, and Beth the half-orc, get the Jamie Hewlett gorillas treatment, which is ill-defined, it transpires. I don't think that the image of gorillas that survives in my head, ever since I learned all the words to Clint Eastwood to impress other kids at a party, has really survived in the same way in the pen of Mr. Hewlett. Artists evolve, that's to be expected. So I've ended up with a kind of mishmash of styles from over the years that I think maybe roughly approximates Hewlett. Funnily enough, Flameo was the trickiest. In all probability, a reference for a living flame exists somewhere in his work, but I'd wager not a cute smiley one. Either way, I am assuredly down to listen to whatever this album sounds like. Not a clue what it would be, but if it's up to Beth, it certainly wouldn't be rock. And now, the end is near. Vive! That's a chibi. Oh, a little chibi Vive. Oh, yeah. Oh, they can look cute. Cute Vive. With the big poofy hair and the big face. Oh, I'm gonna want to squish him. I haven't even drawn them yet, and I want to squish him. Vive, another Dishonored RPG character and regular contributor to RandOCtober, has undergone something of a process of simplification over the years, from painterly crossroadiness to low-poly PS1 to now the saccharine simplicity of chibi. Not our chibi, not chibi, don't worry about it. Much like Mr. Hewlett, the issue I had here was a lack of consistency. Outside of big head, small bod, there's really no real agreement on how chibis are supposed to work. Funnily enough, I just ended up using the art of one of my other friends and glorious artists, JustMissArt, to help guide me here, because they're real good at making the squimchiest little guys. Check out their stickers, link in the description. As it goes, I think Vive ended up right squimpchy enough for our purposes, although if their trajectory is anything to go by, I can't wait for her to be a stick drawing next time. And we have Theo, Miles, and Sloane as Warner Brothers characters. Oh, sort of Looney Tunes-y sort of, well, I guess I get to choose the era? I'm now just sort of imagining like Animaniacs, but with these three. That might be what I go with. I don't know. It depends if I go classic Warner Brothers or sort of more modern. But there's variety here. There's some variety. I mean, it might not necessarily be in keeping with the tone of Crossroad Arts comics, but hey. Since when is this series ever about keeping in tone with things? Kidnapped by a werewolf! One of my favourite parts of the process for these is taking some of the properties of the characters and reinterpreting them as though they had always been in this style. And thus, two quandaries were presented. How to make Theo and Miles' expressive mugs fit comfortably into a simplified animation-ready style, and, of course, how to make a werewolf look as silly as possible. Yes, I know Sloane is supposed to be very intimidating, and I did intend to explore their human side, but I only had to draw the initial thumbnail sketch, and I knew I wasn't gonna do anything else. Also, Theo, he came out real fun. Either way, I'm proud to announce that Crossroad Art has agreed to pick up this animated series, and we'll be getting the first of 24 15-minute specials reinterpreting their shenanigans to a Spike Jonze-esque soundtrack sometime between now and whenever their hands fall off. Promise. And now we have Jurgen. No, this could be cursed. This could legitimately curse someone. Oh, Jurgen the horrific haunted doll, the puppet. He just wants to be a real boy. In the style of one of the most terrifying animation styles you've ever did see. The eye. I have to animate this. You know I have to. It doesn't have to be animated well, luckily, but I do have to. I mean, what is there to say? Cursed puppet child, janky CDI animation, it's a match made in whatever corner of heaven most resembles hell. It's great for me because I didn't have to stay on model all that much, and I got to do all those weird swishes and swooshes and strange angles that the CDI games seem to relish in. But the flip side of this monkey's paw was I did have to have Jurgen staring at me the whole time, which is disconcerting. There's not much to say about technique here, other than that I did in fact make a whole looping skip cycle in order to save reanimating frames, but whatever else may be interesting can be gleaned just from watching it. Not that I recommend you do that, of course, not too much anyway. At least not without first consulting your local witch doctor. And now we have Hercule and Zig in the style of Alone in the Dark. Like really low poly Hercule and Zig looking creepy. Ooh, actually that could be fun. Yeah, that could be my cuddly little friends. Cuddly little cloth golem and rope golem. Actually, do you know what? Yeah, sort of like voodoo doll, really. So, yeah, that would fit in Alone in the Dark. When I say Alone in the Dark, I mean Alone in the Dark. I mean 5 polygons at 3 frames per second Alone in the Dark. Thank you very much. So in order to recreate my fun little friends in the old school stylings of a game that's the same age as me and somehow looks significantly worse, I hopped over to Blender and did everything in my power to deteriorate all of the hard work that the program's developers have put into making it look nice. The program didn't like this, of course, and it ended up crashing a good half-dozen times, but that's Blender, baby! As for Herc and Zig, I was pretty pleased with how they eventually came out, sculpting not being my forte, particularly low poly, but I'm most smitten with the characterization of their runs. Zig running headfirst with determination, and Herc flailing their arms wildly. I don't think there were any zombies in Avonvale, nor demons, nor scorpion monsters? Reanimated pirates? I think that game had like a Cthulhu portal door mouth mimic thing, that's right out. But I guess all this serves to validate my assumption that they would, of course, be running away. Very, very slowly, like 5 frames a second. Righto, we have Lewis's big mech guy in the style of Beetlejuice, a Beetlejuice mech. So this is a little model that my friend Lewis made, what with the warhammers and such, and they're cool. And now they're going to be covered in stripes, I suppose. They're going to be all stretchy and intimidating and covered in stripes. I have no idea, no concept of how you would take a mech and make it into Beetlejuice. Where is the crossover there? I guess this is the crossover. I have to invent the crossover. Something a little different here, attempting to interpret a Warhammer model rather than an illustrated character. And I'll be honest, I almost re-randomized this one because what the hell does Warhammer and Beetlejuice have in common? With the possible exception of a bureaucratic hell. But then I remembered some of the kooky circus imagery which briefly appears in various strange sequences of the film. He says cagily, trying to make you believe he's watched it, and boom! Black and white stripes, bat motifs, little lights, and green-purple backlighting, and we've got ourselves, something. Whatever this is. It did end up looking a bit Batman-y, but yeah, what can you do? I blame Tim Burton. But whichever way you spin it, I'm pretty certain this counts as heresy. So, you know, I'm screwed. Okay, and we have a Cuthbert and Jupiter in the Great Mouse Detective. Oh, yes. How? Okay, Cuthbert and Jupiter are a couple of characters, mine and ChibiNetherlands. We are playing them in the Inferno RPG, inspired by Dante's Inferno. They are currently in Hell, and now they have been transported into the world of Victorian Mouse London to solve crimes on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. Okay. Something that Jupiter is on record as saying is not a thing. Cuthbert and Jupiter, the RPG characters of myself and my good friend Chib, who also did a challenge this October. You should go see it, it was real good. Have spent the last 18 or so weeks of sessions trudging their way through Dante's depiction of hell, seeking both redemption and the understanding that they actually need it. Well, Jupiter's been trudging, Cuthbert's been being dragged by the jangly hat tentacles, but that's another story. So when it came time to interpreting them as mice, the path was obvious. Jupiter has his customer service smile, the illusion broken only by a slightly tense tail, and Cuthbert's being dragged by his own mousy head tentacles. Or ears, as sensible people call them. Boring, sensible people. It's also worth pointing out that prior to this, I hadn't actually drawn Cuthbert's human form yet, only his hell form, and thus this may be the first time I've ever drawn a character's fursona before their actual appearance. It may also be the first time I've ever drawn a furry full stop, but that's incidental. Luna doesn't count, that's hereditary. And we have Finn in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, scraggly Tim Burton cat. You can make friends with Zero, right? I have no idea if Finn would make friends with Zero. Either way, can I make them out of plasticine? That's going a bit too far, really, isn't it? Maybe no. Finn, having braved the battlefields of the Metal Gear series last year, sadly passed away in an unexpected plot twist involving nanomachines, nuclear detonation codes, and a capybara named Churchill. Still, that doesn't appear to be keeping him down, and he's back for some spooky plasticine mischief. I'll be perfectly honest here. well, I say perfectly, I don't think the metric's that accurate. I'll be adequately honest here and say that I had higher hopes for this one. In my attempts to rake the plasticine hills and carve the plasticine bricks in the walls, scratching implied plasticine hairs into Finn's plasticine face a la Tim Plasticine Burton, but I ended up having to make this in just a day because I'm really rather bad with time. I don't know if you've noticed. It's only by virtue of the shadow of the gate that I think this whole thing came together. It's weird how it's the little things, isn't it? Oh, and that's his name, by the way, Finn, with 2 N's on the gravestone. Not Finn with 1 N, like as in end. That's tomorrow. Speaking of... Right-diddy-diddy-oh, we have Carlo and Skillet in style of medieval. They've already been a skeleton. They've already been a skeleton. Why do they keep turning up in things with undead in them? But no, there's more to medieval than skeletons. We've got this as kind of a Tim Burton-y, wibbly-wobbly, fun, goofy, gothic horror sort of thing. We can have fun with that. I don't know how, but we can. Carlo can't have fun with that. He'd be terrified. But only a year and a day following their appearance as Mariachi Skellybobs, the dynamic duo of some locksmith and his cat return as zombies? Kind of. He wasn't meant to come out looking full zombie, just sort of possessed, but you can get carried away with these things, particularly when you're working on it right up to the deadline. Deadline. I attempted to grasp the vivid purples and greens that I associate with the art style of the medieval game, as well as the strong sculptural shapes from the characters. In particular, I'm pretty pleased with the concavity of basically everything about Carlo's face. Shame he's green, really. Still, could have been worse in this world. He could have been... whatever these are. Oh, and that says Finn, 1 N on the gravestone, as in end. You know, not Finn with 2 N's. That was yesterday. And that's it for this month's challenge. I'm very pleased with how it all came out and very grateful to those of you who enabled me to do it, i.e. supported me on Patreon. And I hope you enjoyed getting random body parts as previews as well. And I also hope you enjoy whatever I get up to next year, because I'm thoroughly knackered by this and I need to find something else. Anywho, thank you so much for watching. Regularly scheduled programming shall resume the moment I remember how to use a stylus after my wintry hibernation, and I'll see you around for more extraordinary silliness in the face of the abject horror of it all. Or, you know, just something stupid. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Goodbye. Ha! I only mention this because the thick thumbnail sketches. I don't want to know what a thumbnail is, let alone a thick one. There's not really much to say about technique here, other than that I. Why did they call it the oven when they oven the tie in the food hole cut out the